Hi, my name is Boston John, and it's a Saturday morning, just get into my shop, and on the way in, I was thinking of a video to do, and I figured I'd do one on my 5th step experience in Alcoholics Anonymous. Just to give you a little background, my sobriety date is 9/2/13, and when I came rolling into AA back then, I had no idea what the steps were. I had no intention of making lists or trying to take on problems outside of the drinking problem. I had no idea that that was the key to not drinking, which is to take care of all the outside problems. And the 5th step is one of those steps where you take all the past and all these seemingly outside problems and basically tell them to another person. My experience, really steps 3, 5, and 9 are the big kind of test steps in AA where not everyone does them or does them completely or maybe fully understands what they involve or how important they are. It wasn't my will to do a 5th step. This is before getting into the work. It certainly was not my will to do a 5th step and sit down and talk about this stuff with someone else. Just understand that the key to taking myself out of the equation in a sense where whether it's my will or not doesn't matter. Once I did the 3rd step, I believed it was his will, capital H, that I complete the work as honestly and as thoroughly as I can and basically call AA's bluff. You told me this would work. You told me this would remove my desire to drink and improve my life. So you know what? I'm going to give it an honest try. Doing that 3rd step is what put me in a position to be able to do the 5th step. Whether I wanted to or not no longer mattered. It was his will, and he wanted me to become better, and I wanted to become better. I didn't know how, so AA says it did, so I'm going to do it the AA way because I believed at that point I couldn't do it on my own. I was beyond human aid. It was his will that I do it. That's why I did it. Basically, my 5th step experience was, okay, I did the first 3 steps. Then on the 4th step, I made a bunch of lists. As I was making those lists, I'm saying to myself, oh my God, these are gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to say these to someone else. I already knew who I was gonna say it to. I already knew who my 5th step was gonna be with. After I did a 3rd step, I asked for help with the rest of the steps. And a guy that I knew in the program that had also done the work, that I had been talking to a lot about the step work, AA, life, this, and that. He was the guy that ended up asking me for help. I put together these lists, had a little bit of fear in that 4th step, knowing I'd have to give this stuff up, but I put it down anyway because, again, I thought he, capital H, wanted me to do that, so I did. Completed that list. As I got ready, I felt, am I okay with this 4-step list? Does it have everything that's asked of me? Am I leaving anything out? And when I got to feeling good about the lists and the 4th step in general, and felt I was ready for the 5th step, I asked that person, hey man, can you sit down with me and do this 5th step with me? In the 5th step it says we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being, the exact nature of our wrong. So the day I was going to do my 5th step, I knew I was going to do it later in the afternoon. So when I got up that morning with my completed list, because I took literally the 5th step, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being, I didn't even picture it as being saying it to all of them at one time. Because I thought of meeting with God as me doing my prayers. I just felt it was me and the God of my understanding, and we were talking. I took admitted to God, to ourselves, as me taking my 4-step list and basically reading it out loud after my prayer. I'm still on my knees next to my bed. I read my 4th step out loud to cover admitting to God, to ourselves. Obviously, when you're doing your 4th step, you just, at least I was just sitting there at my little table and I was writing stuff down. I wasn't saying it out loud. I wasn't reciting it. I was just writing it and doing what it said. And so when I admitted to God and to myself, I did that after my morning prayer while kneeled at my bed. I had my paperwork there, and I just started reading it out loud. And I felt in a way that kind of got me prepared for the fifth step, where I would verbalize all this stuff. I also felt, even though God knew, I had to admit it to him and not simply rest on the fact that he knew because, well, he knows everything. It's different that I had to admit to him. I had to tell and discuss with him the things I had done, the nature of my wrongs, etc. And doing that out loud to him also was in a way of admitting it to myself. And that put me in, I think, a little better position later on in the day for when I did my fifth step. So when I did my fifth step, I was in my living room of my house, and I remember the first thing I said was I was worried about kind of being judged, or I was worried more about him sitting there and just saying nothing and maybe having all these thoughts and just being stoic and not saying anything as a kind of a courtesy. And so I said to him, I said, hey man, when I do this, feel free to chime in, say anything you want, ask any questions. I said, I'm probably going to feel a little weird if you're just sitting there saying nothing. So I said that to him before we got going to let him know it's okay to chime in. And I kind of wanted a little bit of banter rather than just sitting there and confessing everything. So that's what we did. I said that to him in the beginning, and then I started to read, to discuss some things, and he came in with a couple of questions for maybe for clarity, or just also to, he said things that identified or related to some of the stuff I said, and it made it a little more relaxing. And I found, for me, the toughest part of the fifth step, just like with the ninth step or a 10th step, is the first sentence. And of course, I'm sitting there with my fourth step list. So my first sentence was, hey man, let's, feel free to chime in. And then I just got to reading and talking and discussing things. And I think more of the discussion came in the admitting of my wrongs. We listed all our wrongs in our fourth step, whether we, selfish and all the stuff like that. So that was where more of the discussion came in. So it didn't take me too long to do a fifth step. We were there maybe an hour and a half or so, wrap things up. And it says in the fifth step afterward to take an hour alone to review, make sure you get everything done right before you go forward. The guy asked for help because it was kind of late in the afternoon. We actually went out afterward, got something to eat. I believe we went to a meeting, and then I went back home and did the review to see, have I done steps 1 through 5 solidly? Can I honestly go forward feeling I've done these the best I can do them? And my answer was yes. Didn't take me an hour. I probably sat myself 15 or 20 minutes back at the house, kind of reviewing and asking myself, hey, are you okay going forward? Have you left anything out? Do you feel uncomfortable with anything? Is everything sitting right? And I felt okay. That was kind of my fifth step experience. First things first was making sure my third step was in order, that I was operating on his will, having a complete and honest and thorough fourth step, having all those lists, all those people's names, all those incidents, all those fears down on that list, getting a guy who had also done the same work a few years before I did, who knew the program well, who I knew and was comfortable with, who I trusted, getting him, sitting down with him and having that discussion, and then getting it behind me. I think, as I sit here now in 2024, I appreciate having done that fifth step more now today than I did, say, right after I did it. I didn't feel totally comfortable after I did it. I was glad to have it behind me, but I still felt a little uncomfortable. I wouldn't say dirty, but there were no more secrets. I take relief in that now, but at the time, I was like, God damn it, all the stuff, all the things I had done, all my fears, insecurities, all the bad behavior, all the immoral stuff was all in the room at the same time, coming through me out verbally to another person. all my stuff. So it's an experience I never had before. So I did feel a little uncomfortable, but now, and soon after, I was very appreciative, and I'd done one of the AA really tough steps, in my opinion, and got that behind me. And now, knowing who I am, how I operated, knowing what I needed to improve, what I needed to work on, and who I needed to see, helped me move forward through the other steps. Anyway, so that's an overview of my 5th step, what I went through. Hopefully you've done it. If you're thinking about it, I would suggest that if you're balking or struggling with it, take a look and ask yourself, are you operating on the God of your understanding's will, or is it your will? Do you believe it's your God's will you do a 5th step? If so, what are you waiting for?